right, let's go ahead and open up Inscape. A couple of things, if you go to your file properties, you can go through and the plugins. If you look at the plugins, Inscape should be in here and it should be started. So not too far, there it is. Inscape Rhino plugin should be enabled. And then if you go to your toolbars, you can also enable your Inscape toolbar, right? Check on that guy and it will enable your toolbar. You can also come out and right click up here and go to show toolbar and scroll down to the very bottom and Inscape will be in there. You can also go to show or hide tabs, and if you scroll down, Inscape will be in there. I use the tab instead of the toolbar, so it's kind of up to you how you want to do it. So I have my Inscape toolbar over here. You can drag these around, kind of wherever you want them. So I'll put the Inscape there since I'm going to be using it. To open up Inscape, you click on this guy right here, the Start Inscape in separate window, and it opens it up. I have two screens running, so it's opening on the other screen. And as soon as it opens, I will start to scrunch my screen down, right? So I'll make this guy, let's go ahead and close that. Make this guy about half screen here. This is always the fun part of teaching. Grasshopper is also fun. And so what Inscape is it's a plugin that does real-time rendering. We talked about this a little bit before we started this. So it's going to open in the home default mode. So it opens up with the same view that I have current, so you can see it sitting there. The first thing I want to do is get us into a view that's helpful. This one right now is not real helpful, so I'm just going to go to my view management here. And right now I have my northeast isometric. It brings the named views, right, from Rhino in here, so I can click on that, right? And so there's my northeast isometric. It looks pretty bad because the lighting is not set up for it yet. If we look at the visual settings for Rhino, for Inscape, I'm going to open up the visual settings by clicking on this eye. And there's a little arrow right here. Let me pull it over here. There's a little arrow that pulls out the settings for this guy. And so I have saved two settings for you. One is a northeast, one is called high key. And then the custom preset is actually the Inscape default preset. So if I click on that, it actually sets Inscape to its default. So it actually flips to a sort of world view, really more appropriate for looking at buildings. And it flips it also back to perspective and all that kind of stuff. So the visual settings, you can save them and then reset them. So the custom preset that I have set for you is the Inscape default settings with the sun and the sky and this horizon. And one of the things that we are moving forward with on this is that you're not going to use the defaults. We're really going to go in and sort of adjust each one of these. And so I've set up one for us to use initially and sort of look at, and then we'll set one up ourselves, okay? So I'm going to go back to the northeast, and it's going to reset all of those settings, okay? And then if I click on northeast isometric, it'll pop back into that view from the perspective. And so let's look at the settings that we have for this guy. The style mode is none, okay? There are no outlines. Let's go ahead and let me set the lights on so you can actually see. I'm going to turn on the lights that I created so you can actually see the object. So we'll talk about those. Those just turned on, those lights. And then let's go ahead and click on this guy. So that comes up first. So the style mode is none. So that means it's showing the materials. I can go to white and it's going to look very much the same, but it's actually going to turn my background white. It just turns everything white. So you want it set to none. You can also do polystyrol, which is a little bit of sort of glowiness. And you can adjust the transmission. We don't want to do that. There's also a light view that's actually pretty interesting that tells you, where the light is hitting and gives you a scale up here. you know, of where it's dark and where it's light. So that's kind of an interesting view to look at. You can, you know, it's definitely telling you where the shadows are and then where the highlights are. But basically, we want to stay in none. We do not want any outlines. The outlines would look very funny on these complex objects. It's not smart enough. The projection is orthographic. And then the auto exposure we have turned off. If you turn on the auto exposure, it actually kind of evens everything out, right? Like it adjusts and makes it sort of like at a mid-level. So I'm going to remove the auto exposure, and you get some much larger gradient from white to black with this one, okay? And then the render quality is set as ultra. In the next video, I'll go over the image and atmosphere. And